All right, well, welcome to the Speed Traveler Roadshow. You're listening to us live on KHTS, AM 1220, FM 98.1. I'm Chris Evertsen, that's Charlie Frank, and gosh, Charlie, it's so good to be in the studio again.
Yeah, it's about time you get back in the studio.
I have a cold. I think I have to go to the beach and take care of my cold.
Chris has missed the last few, although you did call in, so that was quite admirable that you made the effort to call in.
It was real challenging. I had to use a rotary phone.
But yeah, welcome to the Speed Traveler Roadshow. As Chris said, we are your hosts, and we always have fun here on the Speed Traveler. We come on the radio, not our podcast. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. So if you are listening on Apple, iTunes, you can find us, or if you're on Spotify, whatever, you can find us and you can like it. And then there'll be a little notification every time we post a new podcast.
I think it's almost a prerequisite. You should really like it. You have to like it. Hit that like button. Follow us at The Speed Traveler on Spotify, like you said, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We got a lot of great videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's always fun to check those out. I actually was watching the one that we did on that you did actually on the black Cadillac.
Oh, I love that one. It has the most views ever.
It does.
It was the lowest budget. The budget was $1.2.
I wish you would have put the outtake in, because the best one was when the camera just tipped over and you kept talking. You had no idea. And basically, you could just hear you talking.
I should have kept it.
That was so good. Anyways.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because we made lots of videos where we spend thousands of dollars on editing and
production
value. And then we post a video on a 76 20-foot long coupe Cadillac, and it gets 200,000 views. So, you know.
Yeah, but speaking of views, we got a lot of fun stuff going on today.
We do.
I mean, actually, we should really just dive into what we're going to be getting into over the next couple of weeks. There's a lot of fun stuff happening.
Great idea. And who we are. We got to go. I'm seeing that on the checklist here. For those of you who don't know, I'm Charlie Frank, and Chris and I have been race car drivers our entire life. We're race car driving instructors. We're the co-2023 U.S. Terrain Car Champions.
Right, I forgot about
that. And that's a sports car series. And we have a lot of fun. We work, our day jobs are working with automotive manufacturers and doing events where we take people to the racetrack and we take people to fun events around the world, Formula One events. We actually, leading to what we got coming up, Chris, what do we have coming up?
Well, and it almost should digress to what we did last week. Again, that Bentley drive we did from Newport Beach out to Palm Desert, staying at La Quinta Resort, was an incredible event. And we're going to kind of follow suit.
Yeah.
Next week, or this weekend, we're going to be at the Motor Ren Cars and Coffee event this Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday from 8 to 10.
And that's going to be a lot of fun. They've got the Motor Ren is a shop, and they warehouse cars, they work on cars, they sell and buy cars. And
they consign cars.
They consign cars, yeah. And letting us do our show there. And I'm really excited about that, because they always have really smoking hot cars.
Yeah. If you take a look at their website, they have some really great cars. I see there's lots of Lamborghinis, so they really seem to like Lamborghinis over there. The website is motoren, RENN.com. And I just see some cool stuff there. Our friend, as you said, our friend Letta is a photographer, so all the beautiful pictures you see of those cars are her work. And they invited us to come do the Speed Traveler Roadshow live, or at least we'll record it live,
right? And
then we'll broadcast it next week. And yeah, I'm excited. It's Sunday morning, 8 a.m. It's in the Inglewood area if you're from LA. Obviously, it doesn't do you any good if you're listening from Cleveland today. But
it's a short road trip.
Yeah, it's a short road trip. I don't know if we'll be bringing any of our cars. Possibly. I mean, the Volkswagen Kombi would be great. It could be our mobile production studio.
I know the Kombi, which we haven't posted any videos on that yet, but they'll be coming. And I mean, that's a storied little car, bus in its own right. But again, it's going to be so much fun at Motor Ren on Sunday, 8 a.m. till till when we're done, effectively, when we're done talking. We'd love to have anyone come down and heckle us, make fun of us, ask us real questions.
Yeah.
I don't care. I mean, you try to heckle us and throw us off our game. I actually really enjoy that challenge.
That, yeah.
I really enjoy that challenge. That's always a lot of fun. And that's this Sunday, so that's going to be loads of fun. But then next week, Charlie, is probably, for my money, the most important race of the racing calendar for me across the board, regardless of category of race.
And if you're listening on podcast, not on live radio, the dates are Moto Ren this weekend is April 14th at 8 a.m. And then the following weekend, April 19, 2021, is
the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach.
Oh, that's good. You remembered the sponsor.
I did. Well, I'm so used to saying Toyota.
I know.
Toyota, as our friend Pete McDivitt would say.
Yeah, but Acura stepped in when Toyota moved away. They were too good for California.
Yeah,
and I think they moved to Texas.
Yeah, they sure did.
And so Acura, I think, had been dying to get involved with the Grand Prix of Long Beach, and they stepped in, and it's now the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach, and they do a great job because they've got, they donate they have their marketing fleet cars doing hot laps around the track when there's no racing, and they do a great job.
They really do a great job. We had our friend Jim McKellian on the show a couple of weeks ago. He's the CEO, the operating director over there at the Long Beach Grand Prix. He's been there from its inception, 1975, the first year of the Grand Prix, and has worked through the changes in the event style from F5000 the beginning, Formula One up until like 83, IndyCar as it's been since then till now, and all the events that they've added to that event, the Stadium Super Trucks, the GT3 races they had last year. They're gonna have a historic IndyCar race, which Dave Freitas is setting up his car for.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's just a great weekend, and we're going to be semi-live. We'll be doing a live broadcast, I think on Facebook and Instagram, but not for the entire show. And we'll be recording the whole show for YouTube and everywhere else. Right. But we'll be at Lopra, one of, I think, our all-time favorite restaurants.
Yeah, and Lopra is on the corner of First and Pine. I don't know if you know downtown Long Beach. But we're going to be there Friday night at 6 p.m. and Saturday night at 6 p.m. We're in the bar area. It's funny because the Leopra restaurant is the epicenter of the entire event at night.
It really is.
Everybody, every team owner, Roger Penske, Chip Ganassi, they're all there.
The Andretti crew.
Yeah, they all roll through. They all have dinner there one of the nights. So we invite you, if you're a SoCal local or not even that local to SoCal, come to Leopra Friday night, April 19th, or Saturday night, April 20th, around 6 p.m., and we'll be recording live. That doesn't make sense, does it? recording live.
No, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. So let's see.
You don't even have to come for us. Come for the event that's going on Friday through Sunday.
Right.
I mean, I think Friday is still basically free to everybody. So anyone.
You have to. I think you need to go to an Acura dealer.
Oh, that's right. You got to go to the Acura dealer, or you can go to the. I think they're still doing the what is it? The Daily Telegraph. Daily Telegram newspaper. There's a free entry in there. So you have to have something that shows some effort in getting a free ticket, but it's not a whole lot of effort required.
Yeah.
And it's time well spent.
Yeah,
it
really
is. Time
is.
well spent at the Long Beach, the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach.
I'm looking up Free Friday. You keep talking.
I'll keep talking. Well, again, we keep talking about Leopra, and they're not paying us to do this, but they're like family to us.
Yeah.
And that's how that business is run. Leopra has been there for 30 years plus years now. And Terry, the owner, who's owned it since its inception, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He loves talking about his dogs, so ask him about his dogs. And you might even get a free glass of wine out of it.
That's doubtful.
That's doubtful. He's a shrewd businessman, but he loves talking about his dogs, and everyone that works there, Beth, Tiffany, Riley, they've been there for a long time. Oscar, and it's a storied location. Not to give away too much, but there's this really cool historical aspect to the building. It was part of the underground during Prohibition days, and there's all these tunnels underground that still connect some of the buildings around there. So really cool stuff. And again, the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach, all the action that goes on all weekend long. Jim mentioned when he was on the show, the live concerts that they have on Friday and Saturday night. The drift cars, our friend Matthew will be there with the Garagistic cars.
Oh, yeah.
During the drift competition. And I mentioned... what's the car? Whose car is he running? Dave Freitas is bringing. Is it Danica Patrick's old car?
I don't know. It's older. It's even. Yes, it outdates Danica Patrick. I think it's about a 2000. So I remember her first Indy 500 was 2005.
That's right. That's right.
Because I was in the hospital. My daughter was being born, and I was trying to watch the Indy 500. So I specifically remember.
I'm glad you had your priorities in order there.
She led the Indy 500.
Your wife and your daughter being born, or the Indy 500. We'll go with the Indy 500.
Yeah, exactly. But
thank goodness she's not listening to us.
Yeah, right. She was born, and Danica Patrick, as I remember, led a lot of the race towards the end.
Yeah.
She was off strategy, though.
Yeah.
So she ended up having to make a pit stop, and that took her out of contention. But yeah, so Long Beach Grand Prix is a great race. And a little bit later in the show, Chris, we're going to be talking about Formula One and the Formula One Grand Prix of Japan. That was last weekend. So that'll be in our final segment of the show. And segment 2, we're going to talk a little bit about our featured mark today. And you brought up Bentley already. Bentley makes a fine automobile. And, we've got a list of some of the cars that we got to drive, and it was so much fun.
I don't think I've ever sat in a more plush vehicle.
I don't think I have either. And we did the Rolls-Royce Wraith launch.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I liked the Bentley a lot, like with the stitching that matched the exterior of the car.
It's so immaculate.
Yeah.
And man, we love BMW. I mean, we're BMW fans, and the 7 Series, 750 Series, I mean, with the Exec 2 package, an incredibly car to passenger in and drive.
Yep.
I think I like the Bentley better.
Yeah, no, it was an amazing car. So we're going to talk about that in segment 2. We'll do a little news topics in segment 2 about the EV world.
I'm going to yell at you about electric batteries. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
I'm going to yell at everyone about electric batteries.
Yeah, Chris is
I love batteries. Oh, anyway, I'm not going to start now.
Well,
I'm ready to.
Let's just say that if you ever seen the movie, was it Gran Torino with Clint Eastwood? Yeah. Chris doesn't like electric vehicles on his lawn. So
I really don't.
He gets very angry. But we're going to talk about a little bit about EVs. We won't go too far down that road. In the segment C,
the range is so short.
Yeah, in segment C, we're going to talk about some of our favorite. It'll probably be a continuation of the EV topic in the EV mandates, and then. As I said, in the final segment, we're going to talk a little Formula One and a little more preview of the IndyCar race at the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. But I think that pretty much wraps up segment 1. We're going to take a quick break. This is the Speed Traveler Roadshow here on KHTS Radio, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Speed Traveler Roadshow. You're listening to Charlie Frank and Chris Evertsen here on KHTS AM 1220 FM 98.1. Of course, wherever your podcasts are available, you can download our shows. Hit that like button, follow us there, and also on the social medias at Instagram and YouTube. At The Speed Traveler is our moniker, and we look forward to seeing your notes on how smart or stupid Charlie and I are. And in this next segment, Charlie, while you cough up a lung over there, we're going to talk, our featured mark of the day is quite the luxurious mark. I mean, we're old race car drivers. We're used to like stripping everything out, making it go fast. And today we're talking about super luxurious Bentley vehicle.
Super luxo.
Super lux.
Super lux. And we had opportunity to drive some Bentleys from Newport Beach over Ortega Highway in the Orange County area, that mountains that kind of surround the South Orange County. And that drops you off in Lake Elsinore. And then we drove down to Temecula, had a great lunch. And then we headed over Highway 79. And that ultimately led us to Highway 74, the Palms to Pines Highway. And wow, what a great trip that was, coming down the the east side of the mountain range, the Santa Rosa Mountains. And it's where they filmed the movie from 1966, It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World.
That's right.
The opening scene. And how great was that drive?
You know, you think you want to do a road trip in a fast car and kind of tear it up and whatnot. And I got to tell you, driving through Idlewild and seeing all that beautiful scenery and still getting through some of the twisties of the Palms to Pine Highway.
Right.
I was really glad to be in that Bentley. It was just so comfortable.
What a great car. So
comfortable.
The day we had a choice of a few cars. We had the Flying Spur Mulliner edition. It was a $310,000 sticker price in that car. That was really cool.
Nice.
And we also had the Flying Spur S V8, 542 horsepower. That was pretty crazy. And we had a couple of the W12 Speed editions.
Yeah, the GT Azura. We had the GT Speed, the GTC Speed, and you know the horsepower. And,
my God!
But more importantly, the torque, 900 foot-pounds of torque, and you're in the most comfortable luxury vehicle you can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
And that thing would just get up and go.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, a big, heavy car,
right?
You know, not as heavy as an electric car, but still a big, heavy car.
Yeah.
A bigger car than an electric car,
for sure,
and not as heavy as an electric car. Don't know where I'm going with that.
No, it's a great car, and you know what? We on the Speed Traveler Roadshow, we always talk about cars you can buy that are potentially going to go up in value. It's tough with Bentley because it's such a luxurious brand. I guess what I would say is that you really can't buy a Bentley thinking it's going to go up in value.
Well, it will if you don't drive it and you park it for 40 years.
Yeah, exactly. It totally will.
But is your return on investment there?
Yeah.
Any in financial sense any good? No, absolutely not.
No.
The Bentley, it's a status vehicle. It's generally speaking not going to be someone's first and only and primary car.
Right.
I mean, I don't know a single Bentley owner that only has one Bentley.
Yeah, that's true.
or their single car is a Bentley.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at some of the garages of some of our friends, and when I look at a Porsche GT3, I see the Mercedes G-Wagon, and then there's a Bentley, so that kind of gives you an idea of who the client is.
Yeah, because they're not cheap. I would say if you're looking at, we have a couple suggestions for you if you're really interested in a well-priced, very inexpensive Bentley, but that comes with a big caveat that you cannot take that car, generally speaking, to a dealer. Because they're going to charge a lot to fix those cars, and that they do.
You need to kind of go to a vehicle specialist. I mean, there's a couple of guys I know down in Encinitas that specialize in older Bentleys and older British Marks and stuff like that. And they do a great job, but they're specialists, and they too are not cheap.
No, they too are not cheap. So owning a Bentley is going to, you're going to spend an extra $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 a year, for the beauty of driving a Bentley,
and it is beautiful. I mean, and if you can afford it, it is absolutely worth the price of admission. What model were you looking at? Looks pretty.
There's two. There's a couple that we noticed this morning. One is the about 2005-06 Bentley Arnage. Arnage is a famous corner at the Le Mans circuit. Is it the Circuit de la Sarthe? Yeah, in Le Mans. So it's named after a corner, and this is the Bentley Arnage R. So it's the R for racing one. It's a little bit sportier. And they are dirt cheap right now. We saw one for 27 grand this morning.
That's
go
pretty
up to
darn
about
cheap.
40.
Yeah.
So what I would say is that if you're interested in like a Bentley Arnage R, you think if you could buy it for $28,000, think of it as a $48,000 car.
Right.
Put aside $20,000, which you're going to need.
Well, you need to put aside half of that right away just to kind of take it from where you get it and make sure everything's tight, everything's working properly. Because that's one of the biggest mistakes I think any buyer does with any car, with any used car, is you're not buying just the car. You have to have 30% of what you spent on that car in reserve to make sure that car is drive ready, safe.
And it gets people out all the time because they find a bargain exotic car and then they get their first bill for $8,000 and they're like, oh crap.
What happened there? Yeah. I mean, we're in the process of that right now. We're kind of buying some used, a particular brand, and we're buying a few of their chassis, and we know that, and we're buying some extra chassis so that we have parts cars effectively for it. Yeah. So we're going to take 3 cars and maybe 4 cars and build 2 complete cars that are very, very built and ready to drive and have some fun with. Yeah. And then you got to look at it kind of like that.
Yeah. But the other Bentley I was looking at was the Bentley Continental. I mean, the 2009, 2010, I was seeing those this morning for 35 to 40 grand, which is there again. I mean, that's a bargain.
That's a bargain.
And it looks almost identical. I mean, a little different, but really close to the 2024 Bentley Continental.
They don't change the style dramatically. I mean, Rolls-Royce is kind of the same like that. Yeah. You know, I mean, they went through some model changes, but they're not dramatic. No. You know, and quite frankly, for what you're saying, $30,000 for a Bentley, for a car that when I think, if I recall correctly, when that thing sold brand new, it was over $200K in 2008 dollars. Yeah. You know, 2000. Exactly. You know? Yeah. So there's a lot of value. There's a lot of value there. It's still a large spend, but there's a lot of value there.
The Bentley Arnage R is a big car. The Continental's a little bit smaller, but it looks a lot like the Bentley GT and the GTC, and the GTC meaning convertible that we had over the weekend. Yeah. It's not technically called the Continental anymore, but it is basically a Continental from
I will say there's one thing lacking in the GTC, and that it will still lose the convertible race to the Ford Mustang.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm kind of referencing. So we did a show, we did an episode, and this is one of those super high production value shows we did. They got like 12 watches.
Yeah, exactly.
And we did for our version of Ford versus Ferrari. We drove up the coast, and it was a beautiful drive. Which unfortunately the Highway 1. Some of it fell into the ocean again.
Oh, and Big Sur, right?
Yeah. So that's unfortunate. Always gonna be fixing that. But we stopped and did an impromptu race, convertible top opening race. Right. And I thought the Ferrari would be so much quicker. Just and it took like a week and a half for that thing to open. And the Ford was open, I think, in like 12 seconds.
Oh, it was amazing.
It was unbelievable. So so the biggest drawback to a Bentley
GTC. Bentley
GTC is that the convertible doesn't open and close excessively fast.
Really? I didn't notice. It didn't open too quickly. No. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. But, and you have to be stopped. It's very particular about that.
It's really a fun, great car. It gets lots of looks. And I like your analysis that the Bentley Arnage R or the 2009, 2010 Continental, those are cars that were near $200,000 that you could buy for 12% of their new cost. But you're gonna have to put aside 15 grand to fix them. And if you can do that, you can drive a car, that the Kardashians were driving 10 years ago.
Exactly. Exactly.
I know for sure. I could think of 2 great accidents. One was Paris Hilton stuffed her Bentley Continental into something. And who was the girl that starred in the Herbie reboot? Lindsay Lohan.
Lindsay
Lohan stuffed one into a
I did not know that. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. So the moral of the story is. Don't drink excessively and do blow while you're driving a Bentley Continental.
If you're gonna party and you have a Bentley, have a driver. Yeah. The back seat is incredibly comfortable.
Yeah, that's true. All right, we are going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back for our next segment. We're going to talk about some of our road trips, and we're going to talk about Chris's favorite subject, and that is government mandated EVs. This is the Speed Traveler Roadshow. We'll be right back.
All right, well, welcome back to the Speed Traveler Roadshow. I'm Chris Evertsen. That's Charlie Frank. You're listening to us live on KHTS AM 1220, FM 98.1. Of course, you can always find us wherever you download your favorite podcasts, Spotify, Apple, iPlay. And check out our YouTube or our other social media accounts at The Speed Traveler. Yeah. And please be sure to like our content, or dislike our content, but like our channels, and tell us, message us, man. Tell us what a great job we're doing or what a crappy job we're doing.
Yeah. It's funny. For some reason, I was just thinking about Formula One's going to be in our final segment. But I was thinking about when we first started, we were in Las Vegas for the Formula One race. And one of our one listeners in the world, his dad was sitting next to us. So we figured out where all the drivers were staying. That was the Wynn Hotel.
We should actually start that story with that part.
With Formula One?
Yeah, Formula One.
We'll go back to that. You're going to have to wait 10 more minutes
because
to get that story.
It's such a good story. Okay. It's a fun story.
All right,
and there's good info in that. We are going to get into our motorsports aspect of things.
That's a good idea.
And honestly, I'm so wound up right now. Okay. I'm just so wound up that I just want to pummel EV news down everyone's throat.
I know, you were fired up. I saw you this morning. We're like, I just found a new story on why EVs suck. Like, okay. So with that said, we've been having quite the debate here. It's funny because we do have to preface the whole conversation with saying, I'm not opposed to EVs. I don't like that it takes, what is that, Toyota's rule at 90?
1690.
Yeah, so one all-electric vehicle takes the same energy and has the carbon footprint and uses the same amount of rare earth and material as 90 small combustion engine vehicles. Yeah. 1 for 90. There's no way in the world, Chris, that you can rationalize that.
Let's see if I can rationalize that. I cannot.
And so yeah, it sounds like we're on our our harp all the time, and
but I want to agree with you though, Charlie. It's not that I'm opposed to the electric vehicle.
Right.
I'm really not. It's
right.
It's such brand new technology that it's kind of like trying to get to the moon with the slingshot. Yeah. Just expecting it to work.
Exactly. And I think the infrastructure and what I was getting at is that, I guess if you live in Carlsbad or, California or Santa Monica, California, you live somewhere in Florida, Palm Beach, it makes some sense. You could drive around and at least you're not emitting any pollution into the air. Right. It may have cost, 90 times what it would cost to produce a regular car.
Which is just not talked about.
Yeah.
Why is that not talked about?
But anyway. So yeah, it does sort of work there. The air is going to be a little cleaner around your community. If there's plenty of chargers, it works. But, if you're talking about Chicago or New York, where the battery life is severely limited by the cold weather, it just doesn't, how does it make any sense?
I mean, if it's not the number one detriment to having an electric vehicle is being in cold weather on a regular basis.
Right.
If that's not at the top of the list, let's say you do live in Southern California, it's not an issue as much.
Right.
But we've had a cold winter here in SoCal too. I mean, today's been perfect beach weather. It's 80 degrees, but tomorrow it's going to be, it's not even going to get to 60 degrees again. So even at that temperature variation, it changes the dynamic of the battery. You have a battery that's fully charged in 80-degree weather. You don't touch that battery and the temperature changes to 60 degrees. That 20 degrees.
Or 105.
Or 105. Or the other direction. The battery life has now just been decreased by approximately, I say this with an approximation there, approximately by 25%, if not more.
Yeah.
No, so it's a big problem. And I agree with you, Charlie. A small electric vehicle hopping around town in Santa Monica, smaller places, smaller cities, big cities, where you're just kind of hunting around town, getting from one place to the next.
Right. Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Right.
It's a great idea. But I still say plug-in hybrid is a better idea.
For sure. And the biggest auto manufacturer in the world, which is Toyota, 11 million cars per year, they agree with you.
Yeah. Well, I think I may be agreeing with them. I think they maybe have a little bit more information on this than I do.
They are agreeing with you in the sense, or you're agreeing with them in the sense that they're making only 100,000 all EVs this year. Which is really pretty crazy for a company that makes 11 million cars.
But I love the fact, and this is where I think you and I agree as well. Toyota, just using Toyota as the example, they're looking at alternative fuel sources and alternative ways to combust an engine. They've looked at hydrogen, water, ammonia, and all of these things are things that already exist and can be adapted in a cleaner way than just a pure dinosaur fueled combustion engine.
Agree. And I think that the car itself, like as you were saying, makes some sense in a certain place and area. But it should be determined, sales should be determined by the consumer. And I think that's a huge sticking point for you, is that the government can't say, in California, we live in California, said 50% of all the sales in 2030 need to be EVs. And it's just not going to happen because we don't have the infrastructure to charge that many cars.
No.
I mean, we could barely, do you remember last year when we had, I hate using the term brownout, but it's not quite a complete blackout, but it's close.
It's close.
And the first thing they were saying is do not charge your electric cars during the day.
That's the first thing they said.
It's like, okay, so what are you going to do?
Wait, you're telling me I have to have an electric car, but I can't charge it?
Yeah, and it only takes up 5% of the total cars. I think less than 5%, even in California. So what happens if there's 50%? And I mean, yeah, I get it. It's 5 years away or 6 years away, but there's no way.
There's no way. Nothing moves that fast.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, unfortunately, you have to consider the pace of economies and the pace of consumer buying power, and even the pace of the ability to produce these products moves at a molasses pace.
It sure does.
It's not swift. On a cold day, by the way.
Yeah.
You know?
And you touched upon it a little bit earlier, and that is I think what happens is it sounds great. You know, it gets you votes if you're like, yes, we're going to do EVs 100%. But it's like putting the cart before the horse. Yeah. Like there's no way. Okay, that sounds great, and maybe it'll get you votes. But like practically, how in the world is that going to happen? It's kind of like, I kind of like this the other day. I don't like to make fun of Pete Buttigieg because he seems like a nice enough guy and he's well-intended.
He's well-intended. He's actually really, really smart.
Oh, he's very smart.
He's a super sharp dude.
Very sharp dude. And I think he was put into a position, maybe, you know, I could have seen him somewhere, another position in the cabinet, not transportation secretary. Yeah. But he said something the other day I thought was funny. He said people that are accepting EVs are like the people in the 2000s that wanted to keep their landlines, which I think is funny because he said that, then he went home and plugged his electric car into a line. I loved your idea the other day about the trucks, and you said they're doing it somewhere in Europe where the trucks can roll down the highway and get in a lane and have like a lightning rod sticking up and have it connect to electrical power. Yeah. And they don't even have to stop.
No, they drive right through.
So now that makes a lot of sense.
That makes a lot of sense in a commercial environment.
Yeah, but plugging commercial trucks into an outlet, it just makes no sense at all.
Pulling up to another diesel truck to plug your electric truck into it. That's effectively what that is. Yeah, it's kind of a wacky system. And again, I don't want to beat down on the alternative fuel sources. But
well, alternative fuel is the way to go.
Yeah, well, I agree. I mean, or I should say alternative power sources. Right. You know, in the all-electric car. Again, you know, if you really want to preserve the earth, get rid of your car and buy a horse.
or get a bike.
Or buy a bike, okay?
You sell great bikes, Carbon Speed.
We sell bikes, and you know, it's a great way to get around town. Put some panniers on there if you're going to the grocery store. Yeah. You know, if you got small kids, to take them to the park. You know, and parking is super, super easy.
For once, I have to agree with you.
What? Actually, do we have this on recording?
Yeah, that's actually really good. Like, if you're that worried, don't go and buy your Tesla that requires children in the Republic of Congo to mine the materials needed for the battery, which then are put on a tanker ship,
a diesel
that pollutes the crap out of the world to China, and then in China they don't care. Right. They're like, oh yeah, we're so green, and they're just like stupid Americans. They actually believe it. How stupid are these people?
You know, I'm not going to comment on that.
Okay. Yeah, and then they put the battery on another tanker ship and get it here, and then they start the calculation on how green the car is. So that is a really good idea. What you just said, like if you're one of those people that feels like they have to virtue signal and put a
signal. Thank you. I was trying to think of that phrase.
Put your EV on your Instagram page. You should really just sell your car.
Buy a bike, buy a horse.
Buy a horse and walk around town.
And tell me how many likes you get for that on your Instagram account.
Yeah, I think you came up with a great new product idea, covered wagons.
Covered wagons. Yeah, it's new technology. We use this material called cloth. It's made out of shorn sheep. It's good in cold weather. It's good in hot weather.
Right. I like that idea. Or maybe we could have goats. Just get goat powered.
Get rid of your electric lawnmower. Get a herd of goats.
All right. Well, this is the Speed Traveler Roadshow, where obviously we've come up with a lot of really brilliant ideas.
Well, I want to know what your brilliant ideas are out there. Anyone's got a better idea than a goat or a horse? Message us at the Speed Traveler on all the social medias. And Charlie, I guess we're going to end this segment right here.
Yeah, we got to end the segment now.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. We'll be back in just a moment on the other side of this commercial break. All right. Well, welcome back to the Speed Traveler Road Show. I'm Chris Evertsen. That's Charlie Frank. You're listening to us live on KHTS AM 1220. FM 98.1, and this is the motorsports segment of the show.
The motorsports segment. What was the story we were talking about 10
goats.
minutes ago? No, goats. No, I love the idea of goats. Like Chris had a great idea, and we don't want EV to ruin this whole segment. But
I know what it was. It was the Las Vegas Grand Prix.
Oh yeah, Las Vegas Grand Prix. So yeah, when we were very, very new to the podcasting world, we went to the Formula One race in Las Vegas, and I think we had one follower at the time. And here's a little Speed Traveler pro tip. If you go to the Las Vegas Grand Prix, and Formula One's going to hate us to say this, but I don't really care, because they hosed us the night of the if you don't know, the Thursday night, the first race at Las Vegas Grand Prix, the manhole covers were coming off Las Vegas Boulevard like crazy.
Yeah.
And how they didn't know this before. And not only that, but I mean, I don't want to get into the whole thing. You can listen to one of our past episodes, but there was multiple issues.
It was a cluster thing.
It was a cluster thing. It was a disaster. I saw a great Instagram, and it said, Formula One, we didn't have very high expectations, but holy blank. Like it was a disaster.
It was a disaster.
So I have no problem selling out F1 on this one. And that is that we figured out through our friend who worked for the Red Bull team where the drivers were staying. And they were staying at the Wynn Hotel.
Most of them.
Yeah, most of them. That's right. Not all of them. And they were staying in a particular tower. I forget what it was called, but there was a bar at the bottom.
Yeah.
And all the drivers walked right by us. And guess what? You didn't have to pay anything.
Yeah.
And that was as good as paying 25 grand. I actually think they were closer and more interactive than paying 25 grand for a paddock ticket.
For a meet and greet, where they're not, they're kind of just doing their job. And here we were able to capture them in kind of in a moment of their passing of their life. Valtteri Bottas and Tiffany Cromwell went rolling by with their bicycles heading out for a bike ride.
Yeah, and so did George Russell.
So did George Russell.
He came back with a bike.
He came back with a bike. It's interesting how many drivers actually ride bikes.
Yeah.
Fernando Alonso rides his bike with regularity. Lance Stroll broke both his wrists.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Right before the start of the season.
Yep.
In my opinion, that was one of the drives of that race when he drove with what had to be very painful wrists. But I digress.
Yeah. No,
anyways,
I got the sniffles this morning, by the way. All of a sudden, I sound like Trump. You ever notice?
Yeah.
He's like
sniffly.
Yeah, he's like. All right. So so what I was saying. Oh, thanks, pal. So what I was saying is. It was pretty crazy. We were at the Las Vegas Grand Prix. I'm going to make this fast. And we had like one listener at the time. And we sat down at the bar at the Wynn Hotel waiting for the drivers to walk by. And the guy sitting next to us was our one listener's dad.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, which one are you, Charlie or Chris? And we were like, how does this guy know who we are? And it turns out his son was our one listener from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that was just so funny. That was awesome. I mean, what a great family.
Yeah.
And they were super nice. They were very, obviously, he brought his whole family. They stayed at the Wynn, and they watched the Formula One race in Las Vegas. They must have spent a fortune doing that, and they did it first class. Yeah. But what down to earth people? And we're not going to mention any names because we haven't asked them about that. But what great down to earth people. That was just so cool.
It was so so cool.
And to be our only fan.
It's unbelievable. The odds are like, what?
Astronomical.
7 billion to 1.
I will have to ask Mr. Toyota about what that ratio is.
Yeah, exactly. But we brought up F1 because we're going to recap a little bit the Formula One Grand Prix of Japan, which happened over the weekend, Chris. And what are your thoughts from last weekend's race?
You know, it was a better race than I actually expected. You know, I went for the hopeful pick of Carlos Sainz repeating, and as far as I'm concerned, he basically did repeat.
Right.
But the Red Bulls were Red Bulls. I mean, they were all dominant. You know, they crushed the field. Checo Perez qualified within what was it, 6/100ths of a second to Max Verstappen's pole, and everyone else. Cool. Yeah. That would have been cool. You know, and drive of the day. I have two drives of the day from that race. One is Charles Leclerc.
Yep. Fourth place.
Started
but a great fourth
8th
place.
or 9th. And alternative strategy.
Right.
They used a different strategy than a lot of other drivers did. I mean, same strategy effectively that the Mercedes used, but he made it work.
Right.
He drove, other than one little bobble, he drove a fantastic race.
Yeah. No, he really did. And
he needed it.
He needed it. And so did Carlos Sainz. I mean, you mentioned how great Carlos did. Carlos he missed a race, unfortunately. It's a shame because he would have been even higher on the points. He missed a race because of an emergency appendectomy when he was in Saudi Arabia, I believe.
Right.
And but he's been on the podium
every race. He hasn't finished worse than third.
And if you don't know, Carlos is out of a contract and out of a drive for 2025 because 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton's going to take his spot. So it's crazy that he's out of a drive, and you know he's 100% right now at getting on the podium in the second best car.
Right.
Not the best car. Not the second, clearly the second best car.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. And honestly, the silly season's already begun. And to be quite honest, you know, with all the controversy going on around the Red Bull team, Carlos Sainz not having a seat as of right now, you know, the news of Fernando Alonso possibly moving away from Aston Martin, which I think that's just kind of news being created, because honestly, if I'm a driver looking for a seat, the team I want to get on next year, even more so I think than Red Bull, is the Aston Martin team. Lawrence Stroll is spending a lot of time and money building that team. They've got the Honda engines next year.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And that's the one that's been making the Red Bull cars so fast with all of their recent championships.
Right. Along with Adrian Newey's
and
design of a very aerodynamic car. But you mentioned it last week, a lot of the guys from Red Bull are being poached.
Yeah.
And Aston Martin's doing a great job poaching guys for their team.
They are. They're doing a fantastic job. And, you know, when a team is in a state of disarray, even if it's maybe magnified a little bit by media, there's definitely something going on back there that should warrant a little bit of concern.
Yeah.
You know, and if I'm Fernando Alonso, I don't really think I would want to leave the Aston Martin team.
Right.
And I think the other drivers would really want that seat. So any stories of Alonso going to Red Bull, I really think are pretty far-fetched.
I do too, because there's no way at 42 years old, there's no way he's going to go be number 2 to 25-year-old Max Verstappen.
Right.
There's no way. So, I mean, unless he's like, okay, this is my swan song and I don't care, I'm just going to freaking take him out.
Right.
if he gets in my way.
Right.
I could, that would be the only way I see him going there 1 year, because he's going to create chaos. But he might go
absolute chaos.
Yeah.
And of all drivers, I think an Alonso could kind of get in the head of a Max Verstappen with an on-par car.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree. So I mean,
he's a crafty, wily veteran driver, and he knows his skill sets.
And he gets the most out of the car week in and week out.
You know, and again, my other drive of the weekend in Japan. And it goes to the RB2 team.
Right.
And that's Yuki Tsunoda, who scored points in his home race, in his first run at the Suzuka circuit.
Yeah.
And he had to fight for that 10th place spot.
Yeah, he
and
did.
It was a really good drive, especially since his teammate Danny Ricciardo, one, crashed out in an incident in lap 1,
right.
and 2 is not performed at the level that Yuki has been driving.
No.
So Yuki's really solidifying his position over there. I'm a big Danny Ricciardo fan.
Yeah.
But man, Yuki's doing a great job in scoring that point. That was an awesome drive.
And Ricciardo was on point towards the end of last year. I think he scored, what, a 5th or 6th at Mexican Grand Prix?
Yeah.
In October. Yeah. It was basically the Dia de las Muertes.
Yeah, that's right.
So it was around October 31st. And he was really peaking then, but he hasn't found that form yet, has he?
Yeah, it's, I hate to say it, Danny Ricciardo has made a career of going to the wrong team at the wrong time.
Yeah.
But what a great guy. I mean, he's such a personality. You want to see that guy in the paddock. You want to see that guy having fun. It's thrilling. I laughed at every ad that Valtteri Bottas has done.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the guy's hilarious.
He is hilarious.
He's such a, he does not mind being the butt of his own joke.
No, and he has a mullet with a mustache. He's such a great, single-handedly bringing the mullet back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
absolutely.
He's a very, very funny guy. His Instagram posts are hilarious. But you know what? Let's talk overall Formula One. They're going to be in the Grand Prix of China.
First sprint race of the year.
Yeah, April 19th, which is the weekend. We're going to be at Long Beach Grand Prix. Excuse me, the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach.
There you go.
We're going to be at Le Opera Restaurant. If you didn't hear in our earlier broadcast, we're going to be there April 19th at 6 p.m. and April 20th at 6 p.m. So we invite anyone who's local to SoCal to come by there and say hi to us. But overall, so the Grand Prix of China is coming up. Red Bull's still the fastest, but I think what's interesting is the Ferrari, maybe not in qualifying, but their race pace is good.
The race pace is amazing, and I think in Japan they suffer from the lack of DRS.
Right.
I think in Australia it helped them a lot, 3 DRS sectors.
Right.
Whereas in Japan they only had 1 DRS sector.
They have a long straight in China.
Yeah.
So they should be good.
It should be good if they can get in the toe. It should be an interesting race. And,
yeah. I think the Ferrari motor's doing well. I think
it's doing well.
Yeah.
I agree. We haven't seen any real issues come out of them yet.
Yeah.
I think Charles Leclerc is getting back on point. But honestly, I think some of these other teams should start shining forward. I was really enthusiastic about Logan Sargent's run in Japan. He was looking pretty good until he blew it, which is unfortunate. I mean, he was looking like he could possibly get into points. Oh, the bread must be done. They seem to have a pretty fast car in a straight line. That might suit them at China.
Well, let's hope so.
We're
going to do a show next week, which will be probably podcast. No, we're going to be in the radio show next week as well. So we'll save our picks for next week.
Yes.
But that's about it for Formula One. I think we are done for the day. This is the Speed Traveler Roadshow. You've been listening to us.
Before we sign off,
I'm not signing off.
30 seconds. Come visit us at the Cars and Coffee coming up this Sunday.
Moto Ren.
And
that's RENN.
Moto Ren. Ren means race in German. And then the following week we're at the Long Beach Grand Prix. Make your reservations now. Come on down and visit us at Le Opera.
Perfect.
And Charlie, what else?
I think that's it. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week. And this is Charlie, Frank, and Chris Evertsen from the Speed Traveler Roadshow. See you next week.